morning again. Divisiveness is undercutting government on a national, state, and local level. Divisiveness is even thrashing the Thanksgiving vibe of family holidays and destroying family cohesiveness. Families are stuffing more than turkey at Thanksgiving. They are holding it together long enough to get through dinner, only to isolate from each other thereafter. While turkey may be overrated, family gatherings with true acceptance are priceless. We had a cousin Stevie who came to Thanksgiving every year. Stevie claimed to be able to talk to dolphins. He had a pet skunk. He freely shared his incoherent political views and smoked like a chimney. Me and my other married into the family spouses took turns sitting next to cousin Stevie during Thanksgiving dinner for decades, because we were not in the know that the Stevie musical chair game had been fixed. In truth, Stevie was a Coast Guard veteran who worked for years for the Monterey Bay Aquarium as a tank cleaner and loved rescuing animals. He also smelled like an ashtray, was loud, was 6'4", wore cowboy boots and a huge Western belt buckle, although he was from Aptos, California. We nonetheless accepted Stevie at the table, and he knew that he always had a place. He helped set up, break down, and then disappeared until next Thanksgiving, claiming that this exemplified beloved community would be more than gilding memories of the past. But I can say that it did exemplify radical hospitality. At its best, a UU congregation, radical hospitality is not just letting in those who we believe to be unlike us, but being willing to be changed by them, that we are welcoming of change. It means that we are willing and delighted to bring in new thoughts, new experiences, and new perspectives. It means that we are not only willing, but that we facilitate it by making our spaces and our processes accessible. Accessible in terms of mobility, neurodiversity, culture, color, and economic resources. It doesn't mean that it's a free-for-all. There is an expectation of mutual respect and some standards of behavior so that the community is caring of all of its members. Cousin Stevie, for example, had to smoke outside, and his skunk was kept safely in his truck parked out front. Welcoming and getting to know Cousin Stevie did change me. I succumbed to being present in the moment and actively listening to him. I no longer wondered at how to bust open the Insider's musical chairs game. I think it made me receptive to embarking on my 15-year journey of pet therapy work at veterans hospitals and Alzheimer's facilities. Radical hospitality is a manifestation of a number of our UU principles. Our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And our second principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. And our third principle, acceptance of one another, encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Beloved, community happens when folks come together in a radically inclusive and compassionate, interdependent relationship of mutual respect and care to realize justice within the community and the world. We recently voted to adopt the 8th principle, affirming that we will build a beloved community. That vote was not unanimous, but because we are a UU congregation, we have committed through our fifth principle to move forward together to accomplish what we adopt as a congregation. We get to decide what implementation of the eighth principle looks like for us as a congregation. And it's something we need to figure out and how to incorporate into our many outstanding goals, such as working with our contract ministers, building our religious exploration program, finding our director of music ministry, and exploring the enhancement of our campus. While use of the democratic process in our congregation is called for by our fifth principle, the democratic process can be divisive. Unless a vote is unanimous, there is a minority whose position did not prevail. As we see in US politics, this can lead to folks of differing positions failing to actually listen to each other, failing to treat each other with respect, failing to move forward together to implement the majority position, or even undercutting implementation of the majority position. In contrast, at its best, the democratic process in a UU congregation results in folks feeling that they were involved in the decision, that they were heard, and that they will be respected even though their position did not prevail. Before our vote on the eighth principle, we provided information about it, created a number of different types of forums for folks to share their perspectives on the eighth principle, and ensure that the process of voting was accessible as possible. In fact, folks did actively participate, and I hope that everyone who did participate feels heard and respected. Bell Hooks noted that the truth is, you cannot build community without conflict. The issue is not to be without conflict, but to be able to resolve conflict. And the commitment to community is what gives us the inspiration to come up with ways to resolve conflict. In fact, UUSM has a covenant of right relations for just this reason. UUSM adopted its covenant of right relations on June 19, 2004, and Michael was involved in that committee. It states, building community is an ongoing spiritual practice, inviting the spirit of love into our interactions. We each work to develop skills and promote practices that strengthen our bonds of relationships. As we aspire to co-create a religious community of people with open hearts and open minds, we enter into this covenant of right relations. We cultivate attentive listening, care-filled speaking, a culture of gratitude and compassionate honesty. We communicate directly with each other, especially when we are in conflict. We engage one another thoughtfully, seeking understanding and acknowledgement, even when we disagree and our needs will not be fulfilled. We trust one another's intentions. We also recognize that our individual behaviors and actions have an impact, regardless of our intentions. When we hurt or are hurt, we seek reconciliation and forgiveness as appropriate. We are responsible for ourselves, and we are accountable to one another for creating opportunities to encourage, challenge, and connect. Through these choices and actions, we realize the interconnected network of mutuality of beloved community. Beloved community, in 2004, and we're still working on it. They were right. It is an ongoing spiritual practice. I hope that each of us is eager to discover what it looks like for us to implement the radical inclusiveness and compassionate interdependence to realize justice within our community and the world, which is beloved community. I accept that it might not involve pet skunks or designated smoking areas. Reverend Julia Corbett Heimeyer said that the democratic process can result in us coming together to create something larger than the sum of each of us. Let's do that. Let's move forward together to actively work toward beloved community. Let it be so.